Okay, let's begin with our prayers. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. We'll just look at the summary and few important details, and then we'll start from where we stopped last week. So before we begin, let's pay our obeisances to Shri Shri Radha Govinda. So summary of chapter 13, Arjuna's 6 questions, Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetragnya, Jnanam and Niyam. Krishna answers questions 3, 4 and the field of activities and the knower of the field in these verses. It is 13.2 to 13.7. 13.8 to 13.12, Krishna further answers question 5, process of knowledge and liberation. Krishna further answers question 6, the object of knowledge in these verses 13 to 19. Krishna answers question 1 and 2, Prakriti, Purusha and their union 20 to 26 in these verses. Jnana Chakshusha, the vision of knowledge. Yeah, this is an important slide. Okay. What is Prakriti? Before, I should have asked you these questions. I'm sure you know the answer. Just let me go here. And can you answer the questions? Like, what is Prakriti? You can just unmute and answer. What is Prakriti?
Nature.
Material nature.
Material nature. What is Purusha?
The enjoyer.
Kshetra?
Body.
The field of activity, body. Kshetragnya?
The knower of the field of activity.
Okay. How many Kshetragnyas are there, Mataji?
2.
Okay. And what is Jnana?
Knowledge of.
Knowledge. And
your body and soul.
Niyam is? What is Niyam? Niyam.
Paramatma itself.
Name is super soul.
Knowledge, the object of knowledge, super soul. Correct. Thank you.
Object of knowledge.
Thank you for answering. So we will just quickly read this. Prakriti is material nature. Purusha is enjoyer of Prakriti. Kshetra, body, Shariram. Kshetragnya, observer in the body, soul. And super soul. There are 2 Kshetragnyas. Knower in all the bodies is super soul. Jnanam is knowledge, understanding Kshetra and Kshetragnya. Dhyayam, goal of knowledge, object of knowledge is Paramatma himself. So let me stop this and directly go to slide 36, I think. I'll just come back. Okay, so we are here. Text 18, we have to from here. So super soul is source of all knowledge and enlightenment. Super soul is source of light in all luminous objects. Super soul is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. Is knowledge, object of knowledge and goal of knowledge. Is situated in everyone's heart. Easy to understand, right? That was so easy. Now, thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. So, Vijnana, the science of knowledge is about three things: known, knowable, and the process of knowing. So, who can understand this knowledge perfectly? Only unalloyed devotees. I'll only unalloyed devotees have perfect knowledge. Monists say that ultimately, in the ultimate stage, everything becomes one. But devotees do not accept this. Knowledge and development of knowledge means understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness. Basically, everything is taking us towards Bhakti, as we know, and it's all about Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. So what is knowledge? Knowledge is nothing but the preliminary stages, that is early initial stages of understanding the devotional service perfectly. So we are actually getting towards understanding the devotional service. Even if we study all the Sankhya and everything, it's incomplete without devotion. So this we'll understand in the 15th chapter also. In Kathopanishad, there is one example here. This analogy is given where you see in this analogy, there is a tree and there are two birds. Okay, one bird is very busy eating the fruit. It is actually exploiting nature and enjoying everything, enjoying the senses, involved in sense gratification. And this bird is compared to the soul, our soul. And there is another bird which is actually Paramatma. It's compared to Paramatma, and he's actually waiting when this soul is going to turn towards me, when this bird is going to look at me. He just sits and waits. But the conditioned soul is so busy enjoying all the senses and so much attached to the material nature, attached to the material world, material desires. It is so busy, it's not even looking, So the Paramatma keeps waiting. He's like, are you done with your business? Are you coming back home? He's just waiting and waiting. But there is nothing transcendental about material activities. How much ever we enjoy, it is all material only. So unless and until the soul shows some interest, the mind is devoted to Krishna, the senses start engaging in the devotional service, there is nothing transcendental about these activities. So let's text 19. Qualification to understand Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana and Niyam. Fully understood by devotees, Mad Bhakta. Krishna himself is saying this. Kshetra, field of activities. Kshetrajna, knower of the field, soul and super soul. Jnana, knowledge and the process of acquiring knowledge. Niyam, object of knowledge. So what is knowledge? Knowledge means understanding oneself in Krishna consciousness and realizing Krishna is everything, Krishna in everything. Knowledge is nothing but preliminary stage of understanding devotional service perfectly. Vijnana, knower, knowable, and process of knowing is called science of knowledge or Vijnana. So conclusion here. Explain the soul and super soul as the knowable, and super soul is the ultimate object to be known. The absolute truth, that is the super soul. Krishna answers questions 1 and 2, Prakriti, Purusha and their union in this section. Section E. Lord Krishna explains Prakriti, Purusha and their union. It's a nice image. You can see so many things here. Okay. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Means they always existed. Even before the material creation came into existence, the living entities and material nature were there. They just were absorbed into Mahavishnu, and when it is required, it is manifested by Mahatattva. That's how it is. That's why it said beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So the difference between living entity and the super soul is that a living entity is the Lord's superior energy and the super soul is his personal expansion. And material nature was absorbed into Mahavishnu, and as we discussed, whenever it is required, it happens, dissolution and manifestation. It keeps on happening. So when it is required, it will again be manifested by the Mahatattva. And we are all not allowed into the spiritual sky. Why do you think we are not allowed into spiritual sky? You know why we are not allowed into the spiritual world? You can just take a guess. You can just answer that. Why do you think we are not allowed into the spiritual sky? You can just give some answer. It's okay to be wrong also. We are actually originally the part and parcel of the Lord. But right now we are not allowed there, right? Why do you think that? Why we are not allowed? Somebody is writing in the chat. We are bound by Maya. Somebody is written. What else? You can just give some answer. It's okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think we all living in souls have wanted to enjoy and independence, so they came out of the spiritual energy to this material world. So now, if we have to go back, we need to have that loving nature, and we are bound by Maya, as another Mataji told. That's what.
We are all not allowed into the spiritual sky because we are reluctant to serve the Lord. We are so reluctant that, we just don't even realize that we are servants of the Lord. So we want to enjoy by ourselves. So we want to be, we want to own, we want to be the proprietors, lording over the material nature, But in the spiritual world, this does not happen. Here, there, everything is in harmony. Everybody is actually serving the Lord. So they know, they're very happy just to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. So as long as the Lord is served, they are happy. There is no false ego or any kind of competition or any kind of envy going on over there. But here we have all that, right? So a person who does not want to serve the Lord can stay here forever. It is like that. And it really does not matter to understand how did we come here, when did we come here. But the Lord himself says, in the scriptures, it is said that a person who is attracted to material energy, material nature, is always suffering. He says that, is constantly struggling. We don't realize that, but, it's like for some moment, a few moments, we may feel very happy. Okay, everything is fine, going on fine. But then again, there is some problem. We are constantly facing ups and downs. So that is happening in this material world. So this is not a place where we can experience bliss all the time. Only a person who is totally sthitapagna, completely realized soul, like Mahabhagavata, he'll be in that liberated soul state. But even in the same body, being inside this material creation also, they'll be liberated. But even then, Maya is very strong. It can pull them down. So they also are very, very careful about it. So as far as spirit is concerned, all living entities are same. Only the bodies are different. Because body is, it's like tailor-made based on our own desires and, whatever we want to enjoy. Material nature will provide a body to us. It's like we go to the tailor and say, make a dress for me, for my size, for my taste. It's like that. So there are so many bodies available, so many species. So material nature will provide such a body. And the Lord has to sanction it. So Krishna sanctions material nature, designs such a, provides such a design, the soul. So that is why when some people want to enjoy living like sea animals, they'll become that. And there may be people who want to, there are, this example comes up again and again. People who want to eat meat, they can become a wild animal in their next birth. We can never say. And there are people, pigs, they are living a very dirty life because, they don't mind eating whatever and living however they want. They don't have, so every creature is going through some, reactions because of their own desires and their own activities. They are facing this again and again. So we can decide, do we want another material body or we want to go back home to Krishna? कार्य कारण कर्तृत्वे हेतु प्रकृतिर उच्यते पुरुषा सुख दुखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतु उच्यते. Nature is said to be the cause of all material activities and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So let us understand this. So there are 8,400,000 different species, varieties of life, and all are creations of the material nature. Why? Because of our different sensual pleasures and our desires. And different bodies means different kinds of happiness, different kinds of distress. That's all. Everybody is in all kind of bodies, even flies and animals, and you can look around. So many things are there. So many living entities in so many different types of bodies. They are just experiencing different kinds of happiness and distress. That's all. That's the only difference. One thing is, once they enter that body, they come under the control of nature. Like once the body is provided, what happens is we are bound by the laws of nature. In the body of a dog, we have to behave like a dog only. So if we are provided a body of a demigod, we have to act accordingly. If we are in the body of a hog, we will behave accordingly. So we are bound by the laws of material nature. They are very strong. So once we get body, we are stuck with that body until we get rid of that body. So only human life is very precious. So that we have to keep on reminding ourselves. So we have to take accountability for our actions, and we have to consciously decide what are we doing with our time and everything. We have to use our free will properly, because we use that minute independence we have to actually, we do something that will take us away from Krishna most of the times. So that little minute independence, how we use it, it's like, oh, I want to lord it over material nature. I want to be this, I want to be that. Success goes into our head. And then we think so many things like, I own so much. It's very easy to get attached to material things. And slowly we are going away. So we have to understand that, this little free will we have, we can use properly by serving the Lord, thinking about Him all the time. That Krishna himself will help us to purify our mind, thoughts, everything. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with the material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. This verse is very important to understand how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. What will happen to myself? Like after giving up this body, what next? Which body? How do I know which body? So in the second chapter, we understand that a living entity is transmigrating from one body to another, just as one changes dress, right? And this is again because of our own attachment to material existence, material desire and everything. But as per our mode of nature, we are in different species. Mode of nature, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. We'll learn about this soon. So unless and until we are situated in a transcendental position in Krishna consciousness and raise above the three modes of material nature, what will happen? We'll have to keep on changing bodies. How do we change that? How do we stop going through so many different bodies? Be fine. Maybe in the next birth, we will get into a nice Vaishnava family. We are very fortunate, most of us. We are actually from very nice families, right? But we are lucky if that happens. Again, we get into a nice, beautiful Vaishnava family and again become human beings, then it's okay. But what if we never know? We can take any of these bodies. So what? How can we change that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says we can change that only by hearing from authoritative sources, just like how Arjuna is hearing from Lord Krishna. So that's the best way. And second thing we can do is chant. Keep on hearing the transcendental vibration of the Harinam of Maha Mantra, of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Chant as much as possible and hear as much as possible. That is the easiest process, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. So again, human form of life is a life of responsibility. Okay. Living entity follows the way of life according to the three modes. Desire to enjoy forges the bond between Purusha and Prakriti. Association with material nature leads to different good and evil among various species. Okay, this is another important verse. Okay. Upadrishtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purusha paraha. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. So in this body, Upadrishta Hanumantacha. So this monists, what they think is that they say there is no difference between super soul and the individual soul. For them, the knower of the body is only one. Monists say that, but Krishna himself is clarifying that here. He says he is represented as the Paramatma in every living entity as a friend. Okay. So when we are conditioned by material energy, what he does, he stays with us as a friend, just so that he can take us back. He wants to remind us of our original nature and he wants to take us back. That's why it's called Para. Para means transcendental, Paramatma. So he is not like individual soul. There's a difference between Paramatma and Atma. So we individual souls, what we do, we are enjoying our activities, as we saw, that analogy of a tree with two birds. But what does the super soul do? He just witnesses, he oversees and permits. And whatever we desire, he says, fine, he sanctions it, material nature will allow it. See, even if you want to move a hand or lift a leg or whatever, we desire, but on our own we cannot do that. So the Lord sanctions it and material nature, she'll facilitate. So fine, you can do this. If you want to do this, you can go ahead and do this. You want to enjoy this activity, fine, do it. But the Lord has to sanction it. If we cannot do something, that means the Lord has not sanctioned it. That becomes very, very important. We have to understand that. And we are called marginal energy because sometimes we merge into the dark material nature and identify with matter. And sometimes we, identify ourselves with the superior spiritual nature. That's why we call marginal energy. Prabhupada says in one of his lectures, it's like the beach. Sometimes you see it is covered by water and sometimes there is land. So when it is covered by Maya, it is Jiva Bhuta stage. And when it is not covered by Maya, when we are in Krishna consciousness, we are in Brahma Bhuta stage. So that's the difference. That's why we call marginal energy. This is Parikshit Maharaj hearing Shukdev Goswami. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So when we understand material nature, the super soul, the individual soul, and their interrelationship, then we become eligible for liberation. So what is the purpose of knowledge? What is the purpose of knowledge now? Actually, we think, oh, I am so knowledgeable because I've read so many books in school, here and there in the library, everything, right? But the purpose of knowledge is to understand according to Bhagavad Gita and all the scriptures, that the living entity has by chance fallen into this material existence. We have fallen here. We have fallen. So we should understand that. That is actually knowledge. So we have to understand our position, revert to Krishna consciousness. How do we do that? By association with authorities, saintly people. And like this, how Parikshit Maharaj is hearing from Shukdev Goswami, like that. We have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Then that Guru will take charge of us. Like, he will guide us, he will tell us, because he himself is knowledgeable. He has complete realization of what is the spiritual world, what is the material world, and he will guide properly. So then we can be, we'll be transferred into the spiritual world. Then we can always experience bliss. Then there's no anxiety, there's nothing there. So that's how it is. Then we'll know what is real happiness. Result of knowing the philosophy. One who understands philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, the interaction of the modes of nature, sure to attain liberation. So it's so easy to remember also. One who understands philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, the interaction of the modes of nature, such a person will definitely attain liberation. Knowledge of truly understanding the relationship between soul and supersoul result liberation and return to the spiritual world. What is the purpose of knowledge? To understand how the living entity has material various condition. How to understand our position. How to understand our position. Let's understand this. That super soul is perceived by some through meditation, by some through the cultivation of knowledge, and by others through working without fruitive desires. So as far as the search for self-realization is concerned, Krishna tells Arjuna that there are two classes of conditioned souls. There are atheists, monists, skeptics, like they are kind of, they don't have faith. Okay, they are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. But there are others who are, they have renounced fruitive activities. So they have faith. They are a little more introspective, and they are philosophers also. So only the devotees understand that beyond this material nature is the spiritual world, and there is the supreme personality of Godhead who has expanded himself as a Paramatma. That super soul is in everyone. He's all pervading. So devotee will have this knowledge. And actually the person who has renounced fruitive results, he has his attitude is the best, Prabhupada says, because his chances of going back to the spiritual world is very high. And people, some people cultivate knowledge, and there are some people who meditate to realize this truth. So they approach the spiritual life, the spiritual world, the truth about the absolute truth in different ways. So that's what it is. And there are people who just do Sankhya, and for them they know that this is there is this material nature and these many elements, and they say this soul is the 25th element and the super soul is the 26th element. So they study like that, but ultimately they also come to a stage where they realize that they have to serve the Lord. So everything will directly or indirectly take them to the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's just different ways to approach him. But devotional service or bhakti is easy. Just chant his name and just serve the Lord. Why are we doing that? Because the authorities are already saying that we cannot understand everything by our own mental speculation. So we just have to understand many things from scriptures, because all these Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, and Prabhupada himself, and all these great acharyas, there's no need to doubt them. They're already giving us a lot of information like Vasudev. So we just have to understand from them directly. Understanding through various types of yogas. Lord explains two classes of conditioned souls. faithful in spiritual life, what do they do? Dhyana. Some perceive the super soul through meditation, Sankhya Yoga. Others through the cultivation of knowledge, Karma Yoga. Still others through working without fruitive desire. Atheists, agnostics, and skeptics are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. It also includes those who establish the doctrine of monism. Devotees of the Lord are best situated in spiritual understanding because they know that beyond the material nature are spiritual world and the supreme personality of Godhead who expands as Paramatma. They have that knowledge. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. This is Mother Devahuti. She is actually, hearing from her son, Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni is incarnation of Krishna. So when he was born to her, she and Kardama Muni left home. He went off to Vanaprastha. She asked Kapila Muni, can you instruct me? Give me spiritual knowledge. I really need to understand about the spiritual world and about the Supreme Lord. Tell me everything about the absolute truth. So Kapila Muni gave her all the instructions. So age does not matter. Here mother is taking instructions from her son. So it does not matter. Spiritual knowledge is like that. So that's how it is. So, but in the modern society, there is practically no education in spiritual matters, right? Prabhupada also keeps saying this. So we know that it's very difficult. We read about everything. We go to school or college, we read about chemistry and physics and maths and whatnot, but nobody talks about soul and super soul and all these things, right? We never really understand too many things about this. It's superficially, we follow some rituals and we know whatever elders told us, but there is so much more to be understood. So that information nobody is telling us. And some people appear very philosophical, but actually they also won't have any knowledge of philosophy, because Lord Chaitanya says a person who knows really what the truth is, he would have followed that same process, hearing from authoritative sources and hearing the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and chanting himself and experiencing that bliss, because that itself is an experience. Chanting the Hari Nam gives a lot of joy. So only a person who has a guru who has heard from all these authoritative supreme masters, only such a person has complete knowledge. And all others are like, they can say they know too much, but they know philosophy, or they can call themselves knowledgeable, but it's not complete. They will not know everything. So only by hearing, again, like how she's hearing from her son, and by chanting, we can actually gradually understand everything, and then automatically we'll start worshipping the Supreme Lord. So we should just follow in the footsteps of pure devotees. Then we'll also become pure devotees of the Lord. Jnana Chakshusha, the vision of knowledge. Section F. One who can see super soul, living entities, and material nature in their proper perspective sees through the eyes of knowledge. What do you mean by sees through the eyes of knowledge? O chief of the Bharatas, whatever you see in existence, both moving and non-moving, unmoving, is only the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So this verse explains both material nature and the living entity, which existed before the creation happened, right? The material creation, the universe came into existence. The Lord created material nature, and the superior nature is actually placed in the material nature. So all these manifestations and all these activities that are taking place, all are happening because of this combination. Whatever is created is a combination of the living entity and the material nature. We see trees, mountains and hills, they are not moving. And we see like us living entities that move around. So all this has happened because of the combination of these two, material nature and the superior nature. Without the touch of superior nature, the material energy, the material nature cannot do anything. Nothing can grow without the touch of the superior nature. And the Lord controls both the superior and the inferior natures. Without his sanction, again, nothing can move. There is this nice story also, there's an incident when all the demigods become very puffed up. They win a battle against the demons and they think, wow, we actually defeated the asuras. We're so great. And they're celebrating, having a party like that. Then suddenly they see one Yaksha. He comes and he challenges them. He says, actually, that is the Lord himself, He says, I'm an Yaksha, but I want to challenge you guys. Can you fight with me? He has a small blade of grass with him. He keeps that there and he says, destroy that. So first Vayudev will come, he'll blow, try to blow that grass. Nothing happens, it's not moving. Then Agni Dev will come, he'll also try to burn that. He'll say, what is this? Such a tiny thing is not burning. That is very kind of shameful for him also. Then Indra, that Parvati actually tells Indra that, don't even try to do anything. That Yaksha is not Yaksha, actually, that is the Supreme Lord himself. He's come here to teach a lesson. So he defeats all the demigods like this, and Indra understands immediately. He'll apologize. He'll say, I know who you are. We are so sorry. We thought we did everything. Oh, we are so successful and all that. But we know that without your sanction, we wouldn't have won the battle. Then they actually, pay their obeisances and learn a lesson. So sometimes we forget, we think, wow, I succeeded. I made this happen. All this, it just, whenever we win something, especially that sense comes into us, we think, wow, we like to be applauded, right? Say, wow, I'm so great. We feel like that, but that also happens. Whatever happens, success or failure, whatever, everything is sanctioned by the Lord. Without his mercy, nothing can happen. Spiritually realized person can distinguish between spirit and matter in all circumstances. Moving, non-moving, whatever you see in existence, only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So whatever you see in existence, only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Combination of field of activities means field of activities are bodies. The knower of the field, again, the soul and the super soul. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam parameshwaram vinashyatsva avinashyantam yapashyati sapashyati. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul is ever destroyed actually sees. There are some ignorant people, they think when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually it is not so, right? After the body is destroyed, both the soul and the super soul, they exist and they go on again eternally, many different various moving and non-moving forms. They just continue their journey. So only a person in knowledge, because of his good association, can see these three things combined together. The body, the proprietor of the body is the individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, who is the super soul, is always there with the individual soul. The super soul always accompanies the soul as just like a best friend. So this knowledge is possible only by the association of knowledgeable people who really know the truth, because they have real knowledge, they are real knowers of spiritual subjects. Only being among them and hearing from them, we can actually understand all this. Otherwise, we cannot see these three things. So we can see everything around us is actually, they're all souls. They are in different bodies because of their own desires and activities. They're also different. They have, because of their own mode of nature, all this is working. That's why they are like that. So a person who is knowledgeable knows that when he looks at others, he knows. He has that kind of vision. Seeing, that is Jnana Chakshu. One who sees the indestructible super soul always accompanying the indestructible individual soul in all bodies is the actual seer. How much vision is possible by good association with real knower of spiritual subjects? Who is the man in real knowledge? One who can see three things in its proper perspective. The body is just a machine. It's going to, we are going to give up the body one day. So everybody, all of us, every creature that is walking around us, So the body is like that. And the proprietor, the soul, and the super soul as the friend of the soul. So one who can see three things in its proper perspective. So he is the man in real knowledge. One who sees the super soul in every living being and equal everywhere does not degrade himself by his mind. What do you mean by degrade himself by his mind? The person, he will be always in his senses. He will not commit any sins. He will not, unnecessarily people get angry and commit so many sins. They say, oh, I lost control. So that will not happen because this person has reached a stage where he understands there is a super soul inside the other person. Jesus said, even, he's on another level, but he said, right, forgive these people because they don't know what they are doing. It's like that. So then, thus he approaches the transcendental destination because he sees the super soul in every living being, they're equal everywhere, and he does not degrade himself by his mind. So what happens is he will not hurt anyone, basically. He will not hurt anyone, and he will not hurt himself also, he will not hurt others also. And because of this vision, he will be, we call some people very mature, right? This person is so mature. I feel so happy talking to him, talking to her. Because of this, they understand what is what. And that is why. So, mind is generally addicted to sense gratification and sense gratifying processes. But when the mind turns towards the super soul, what happens? We become advanced in spiritual understanding. Okay, the more we go towards Krishna, we become more and more understanding. We become more advanced. Actual seer does not degrade himself by pursuing selfish desires of the mind. What is the current situation of living entity? One has situated himself differently than in spiritual world. What is the role of mind? Mind is generally addicted to sense gratification, which binds the living entity in the material world. When the mind turns to the super soul, one becomes advanced. Then one approaches the transcendental destination, actual seer. This is another interesting verse. One who can see that all activities are performed with a body which is created of material nature and see that the self does nothing actually sees. The body is a machine. It is designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill our desires. And whatever we are supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, we are forced to do because of the bodily constitution, right? And if a person has this transcendental vision, he can actually see. That means, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. He's just looking, look at it's just like a machine, how it is working inside, and there's a super soul inside, and soul is sitting on the chariot. Such a person has this transcendental vision, and he works, all his activities will be on a different level because he'll be doing everything with complete knowledge. So there is no way he'll commit any sins, and he'll always be happy. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So in the material conception of life, we say this is dog, that is cat, that is a bird, this is an elephant. Those are all material, that is material vision. That is not spiritual concept, So that is not actual vision. So if a person realizes that the various bodies of all these living entities, they all exist because of their different desires, and such a person actually sees. So he attains spiritual vision, and his consciousness also will be purified, and he will not differentiate between different. The treatment, of course, will be different, because when you see a snake, obviously you will not treat the snake like a cow or a dog or whatever. That is different, but at least they understand these are all souls. There is no discrimination there. He understands that much. Vision of actual seer. All activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature. The self does nothing. When does he attain Brahman conception? Purified consciousness can thus develop Krishna consciousness. He ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies. Thus, absence of any material differentiation because of different bodies. He sees how beings are expanded everywhere. So he'll have because of his purified consciousness, he can actually go back to Godhead. Okay. Anaditvan nirgunatvad paramatmayan avyayah sharirasto api kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So actually a living entity is eternal, transcendental, is not born, cannot be destroyed, and by nature is always in bliss. So all this knowledge, will automatically be there in a person who is completely Krishna conscious. So those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. See, all this is theory when we are reading, but a person actually realizes all this. That's how we are. That we have to get to that stage. That will happen only when we hear more and more and chant more and more. That stage will come when we are. Many people in the 18 days class also, they ask, how do I really understand that I am a soul? How do I? Because it's okay. But how does that realization set? We start behaving differently. So that will happen only when we hear from the scriptures and chant more and more. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. The soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. The air actually enters into water, it enters mud, it enters all kind of garbage, and it goes over a nice garden, right? We say, oh, the air carries some kind of fragrance sometimes, but it does not mix with anything. Just like that, the soul also does not mix with the body. In the sense, matter is different from soul, and they don't mix. So soul does not mix. It's like, imagine a car, and there is a driver. He enters the car, he drives the car, and then he exits. So the car is just the matter. It is like, you can compare the driver to a soul. So they don't mix. And how the living entity enters a body and how it exits the body, all that is very, very difficult to see by our material eyes. We cannot even imagine or describe all that properly, because we cannot actually see. Science also cannot explain all that, ascertain this, because we cannot see the soul. So we don't know. We just hear and understand. That's all. There is no way we can experiment and see, can we really see the soul leaving the body? All this cannot be seen through material eyes. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminates the entire body by consciousness. So in Bhagavad Gita, actually, consciousness is explained with the example of sun and the sunshine. Like just like the sun is in one place and it is illuminating the whole universe, right? The world becomes so bright because of that one sun. Just like that, a small particle of spirit soul, which is situated in the heart, as you see in this image here, it illuminates the whole body by consciousness. So consciousness is the proof of the presence of the soul. Just like looking at sunshine and light, we see, oh, sun is there, right? So that's the proof of the presence of the sun. Just like that. So any intelligent man knows that, the body becomes useless after the soul exits the body. So consciousness is not a product of combination of some chemicals or some combination of some matter. It is actually symptom of the living entity. So, and then the consciousness of one body is not shared with another body. Only the super soul is supremely conscious, not the individual body. So that is the difference between the individual soul and the super soul. Kshetra kshetragnayor evam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. One who knowingly sees this difference between the body and the owner of the body and can understand the process of liberation from this bondage also attains to the supreme goal. So the purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the difference, the distinction between body, the owner of the body, and the super soul. That is the main goal of reading this chapter. We should understand that much. So that's why we are reading so many puppets, but ultimately the conclusion is we should know the difference between the body, the super soul, and the individual soul. So what should a faithful person do? Now he has faith. So what should he do? Again, hear from the authorities, just like how Arjuna is hearing. So that one instruction keeps on repeating. So we should not forget. A one verse chapter summary. Seeing of knowledge, the difference between the body and the knower of the body. The process of liberation from bondage in material nature. See, the super soul, that Krishna is a friend. And what is our, it's like Hanuman and Ram hugging. That's how it looks, right? Here we see an individual soul hugging the supreme personality of Godhead. So that is our ultimate goal. If we understand that he is our friend and there is no envy, nothing. Arjuna had no envy at all. He was not envious of Krishna. You could see that, right? Krishna himself says that. Like that, if we all stop being selfish and all, trying to lord it over material nature and trying to be too attached to all these materials and all, then slowly, we can also realize that Krishna is, is actually our friend. He's always there. So one attains the supreme goal. Going back to Godhead. So we reached the end of the chapter. This is a summary. Arjuna's 6 questions. Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnanam and Jneyam. Krishna answers questions 3, 4 and the field of activities and the knower of the field. Krishna further answers to question 5, the process of knowledge and liberation. Krishna further the object of knowledge. Krishna answers questions 1 and 2, Prakriti, Purusha and their union. Dhyana Chakshusha, the vision of knowledge. And Krishna is the only enjoyer. And Prakriti is the enjoyed. Okay. That way we are all Prakriti actually. There is only one Purusha. Okay. And then Jneyam is object of knowledge, absolute truth. This Jiva, living entity, takes up repeated birth and death. Why? Due to association with the material modes. So in the next chapter, we are going to learn about the material modes, how these material modes bind the jiva and what is the way out. How can the living entity come out of this, bondage? We're going to see that. So I'll stop.